I'm going to record. Hi, guys. So I will let more in as they come. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Garry and Tyde. Greatly appreciate it. If you guys keep your cameras on and yourselves muted, unless one of our presenters asks you to unmute, and I'm going to turn it over to Garry and Tyde, and I'm going to mute myself. And thank you again so much.
You're welcome, guys. So thanks for being here, everybody. Todd and I are honored to talk with you guys this evening. And, you know, it's funny, Todd found this really cool article, and it was really talking about, you know, financial advice for young adults. But the first thing it stood out to me on this whole article was, you know, something that Sandy, you and your husband have probably said. Now, if I'd only known, you know, many years later, I thought that just kind of stood out to me. And Sandy, when you were on our radio show, you know, we talked a lot about the latte factor. So I'm going to reference a lot of that this evening, especially when it comes to compounding interest and how things like that work. But Todd, I think we should go through that article from number 10 all the way back to number 1 there, and just talk about a few things and see if we can give them some input. So why don't you kick it off with that first one?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, what we're trying to do is give you guys some tips and pointers that you're going to be using maybe down the road. You know, if you're younger and haven't entered your working career yet, these may be some things that you want to write down just to keep in mind moving forward. But the first thing that is recommended, and it pertains to really you being in the work environment, is taking advantage of any kind of retirement plans that are in place with an employer. You may not be aware, but a lot of employers, even, you know, some of the big names that you hear all the time, have 401ks or different sorts of retirement plans. And the nice thing about that retirement plan, a lot of people don't realize and don't get involved because maybe they don't understand or they're intimidated by something like that. The company, as part of their retirement plan, in a lot of cases will offer a free match. And what that means is, if you've elected to take a little bit of your paycheck and put it away, it happens automatically once you enroll in their program, but they're going to match whatever you're putting in with their own dollars, which is free money. There's not a lot of places in this world that you can get free money, and taking advantage of a company match, especially for a younger person, becomes crucial as you enter retirement down the road.
Yeah, and something I'll back up on what Todd's saying. When we talk about a match from a company, that's free money. You know, there's a couple of ways to get money in life, and getting free money is the very best way. So that's why you take advantage of that situation. Something else that I think is important for you young adults to listen to, and I want to talk a lot about, is trying to fund programs that are going to give you some tax-free income. This is so important. We're going to see taxes increase in our lifetime. You guys are going to see a lot of taxes probably increase in your lifetime. So if that same company's offering a Roth version inside of the 401k, you need to talk to someone about that so you understand how it works. But if you can start putting money back into an account, when you pull it out down the road, it's going to be tax-free versus taxable. That's big. So you need to keep Roth IRAs in mind as a young person. The next one was, and this was kind of hard, don't treat yourself too much. I thought this was interesting because once you get into the working life and working field and you start making money, you're going to want to buy things. You're going to want to do things for yourself. I am guilty as charged. I promise you guys. And you know, the neat thing you can take away from that is if you want this big trip, you want to take this big trip, if you start saving for it and you're able to pay for that trip versus putting it on credit cards, which is, you know, our next segment, you know, yeah, you could take this big trip for $5,000. But if you work and save and don't treat yourself so much, maybe don't buy a Starbucks every single day and put some of that money back, then you can save the money up for that big expense and that big trip or that motorcycle, whatever it is you want. You can save your money and make that purchase down the road versus putting it on credit cards, right, Todd? And I think that's the next one.
Yeah, the takeaway from that is really just try to avoid, the frivolous things. Not that you're not going to do that every now and then, but you'll really appreciate saving up for something and using an experience that you'll remember rather than, like Garry mentioned, buying an expensive Starbucks coffee or something like that with it. The next is credit cards, and we probably could have spent the whole time talking about credit cards.
Yeah.
Credit cards are something that at an early age, as you're going off to college, you're going to be blasted by folks that want to give you a credit card, and it seems like a great way to be able to get the things you want. What a lot of people get in the habit of doing is taking that credit card money as it comes in and not paying off the credit card each month. And the issue with that is that you can compound your problem down the road because of the interest rates that are charged. And we're not trying to say that credit cards are a bad thing, because they're not. Credit cards paid off on a monthly basis is a great way to get points. You can get cash back, but it's also a great way to build your credit. So having a credit card, that you eventually get a $2,000 or $3,000 limit on, will help you down the road when you go to buy that first car or first home or something else that you need credit to be able to do.
Absolutely. Another one that I think is a really big topic here and is once we become adults, once we start getting bills, they're no fun. I promise you guys, bills are no fun. They're never fun, but you got to make bills a priority. And what I mean by that is, instead of making a purchase, like a lot of people when you're younger, you may go buy something you really want for yourself versus paying that bill. The problem with that is most likely if you do that, you're going to put it on a credit card, just like Todd said, and then you're going to have interest on that. But if you're late on those bills, you're going to start getting late charges. And those really add up. I mean, companies are okay with you guys paying your bills late because they can charge you more. So you really want to make sure that bills are a priority. There's a word out there, and I'm going to use the word, and it's a hard word to use, but if I was a younger person and I could say, if I'd only known, like I started this conversation out, create a budget for yourself. Make sure that you have a budget design and you know exactly what's going out in your bills that you have to pay on a monthly basis. Then you know what you have extra. Now, out of that extra, guys, you got to pay yourself first. And what I mean by that is you got to put money back in savings. You got to put money back in savings, and then you can go out for a nice dinner or something. But make sure your bills are a priority. Make sure then after that, within your budget, you pay yourself first, and then you can move on to, going and spending some money and having a little more fun. So I just think it's important to make sure your bills are a priority.
Yeah, and that kind of leads us into, when we talk about budgeting, what we're talking about with paying yourself is creating a savings for yourself.
Yep.
And you'll want to have a certain amount of what they call emergency money. It's a pad in your savings account that allows you to be able to take into account any kind of emergency expenses that you're not expecting. And just a few tips on saving money in general. It's easy to do something very small, something that you don't notice, or something that's taken that first step. And that first step may be, $10 a week, or it may be $50 a month, or it may turn into $100 a month. And that seems a lot easier than trying to come up with this big number to save. Also separating your accounts so that you have an account that you're spending from for your bills and things like that, and a separate account that's a savings account. And that account's going to be something that you really don't touch unless you have to. It's going to make it a lot easier to save up.
So in our rule on that, Todd, is usually what we talk to people about is having at least 3 months worth of bills put back in savings. That's what we call your emergency account. So something Todd said there is working on, we're kind of talking about compounding interest now. And I want to take a few minutes, if you guys don't mind, and just share something on compounding interest. And this is from the book that I told Sandy about called The Latte Factor. You can get this on audio. I think that's how Sandy did it. You can actually get the book itself. David Bach wrote it, but I just want to throw some numbers at you because these are pretty amazing. If we look at saving $5 a day, that's that latte, right? That he's talking about. You look at saving $5 a day and you throw 10% interest on that, annual interest on that. Guys, in 30 years, because you're all young, in 30 years, you'd have almost $340,000 set aside. 340. In 40 years, you'd have almost $948,000 put aside. So almost $1 million by saving $5 a day. Now, let's increase that to $10 a day. $10 a day in 30 years, $678,000. Now, check this out. Because you all are so young, you're still going to be working 40 years from now. But in 40 years at $10 a day with 10% interest, $1.9 million. Now, let's think about that. That's $10 a day, 10% interest for 40 years. That adds up. So to what Todd was saying, saving a little bit, $5 a day. Hey, start with $1 a day. Start with $1. Start with a quarter a day. Start with $1 a day, put it back. Once you get a couple of dollars saved up, you can then put it into an account that's going to gain some interest. And then the magic can happen after that. So I think it's really cool. And this is a great reference of a book to look at. Something else when you get a little bit older to not forget about is life insurance. Now, you guys are all young. You're not worried about dying right now, leaving money to somebody. But here's the neat thing about life insurance I want to explain to you. Life insurance can be an investment vehicle for you as well. So if you do the right type of life insurance, you can put money into the account and you can accrue interest. Like I was just talking about in this book, you can accrue compounding interest inside the life insurance policy. And later down the road, later in life, you can pull that money out tax-free, just like you would a Roth IRA. So don't forget about life insurance. Even if you're single, you're not married, you don't have children, you can take advantage of a life insurance policy to gain some income down the road that'll be tax-free for you. So I think that's a great tip for you guys to know too.
Yeah, and another thing to think about life insurance, I know when I was younger and when people mentioned life insurance, I immediately thought of, it's morbid, right? I mean, you're talking about, something that pays out if you die. But a better way to look at it is protection. And what you're doing in the case that maybe you're married or you have somebody that you care about, if you've created some debt when you buy a car or you have maybe a large credit card debt or something like that, having a life insurance plan in place allows them to have that covered so that they're not having to be concerned with that debt if something were to happen to you. So it's just something that's smart to do as part of a financial plan that can keep you a little less stressed moving forward. Another way to save some money, and we do this all the time, my wife is a great cook, is actually learning to cook for yourself. It sounds like something so small and so easy, but anybody that goes out to eat on a regular basis knows that it's expensive. And it doesn't matter where you're going, you're going to spend quite a bit of money to eat out. You're not only going to probably eat a little healthier at home, but it's also going to save you money when you're doing that.
Yeah, that's something. And for you guys that don't know me, I mean, Rhonda and I have been married for just over 10 years now. And Rhonda has got me so used to taking my food to work with me. I was that guy that ate lunch out every single day. And so now I take my, I pack my lunch. Let's say that. I take my little lunch box to work every day. I can afford to go out and eat lunch every day. But one, I enjoy it because the food's actually better and it's a lot better for me. In that article that Todd found, it said it's better for your budget and better for your waistline. So a lot of great things come out of learning how to cook your own food. Here's another tip, and this is something I think is important, and I think it's always look for the lower price. Most prices in most stores, I mean, there might be some negotiation there, a little wiggle room to get the price lower, but you might be able to find an item at Dillard's, that's $40, and you might be able to find it online through the same company having a discount with 25% coupon. I think you can shop a little smarter. That's something else I've learned from my wife very well. You can actually cut coupons. We don't do a lot of coupons, but like CVS, when you buy something at CVS, you get so many coupons, it's unreal. And you can go in there the next time you spend $20, you get, $10 off or something. I mean, coupons really add up, but always be looking for the lower price, especially when you're shopping for bigger items like a car. You really got to do your homework. Even when it comes to travel, Todd and I have some friends, Hunter and Amanda. They find the absolute best deals I've ever seen in anybody in my life when it comes to traveling. But they do their research. They take the time to do that, and they save thousands of dollars by doing it. So always look for the lower price. I think that's smart.
Yep. And I think that the next one on our list is probably another one that's pretty important, and it's tuning out the financial noise. And if you've ever been interested in finances in general, and maybe you flipped on a channel where they're talking about money, it can create a lot of panic and anxiety because they're always talking about the ebbs and flows in the market, and they're trying to make it as interesting as possible because that's how they get viewers, right? But the reality is that most people's retirement planning and most people's financial plans are based on a long term, and those ebbs and flows that you see are important. But they're not necessarily something to be concerned with on a daily basis. So it can be a distraction. It can be something that causes you to make irrational decisions. And it's good really to tune it out. I know, like with a company sponsored retirement plan, a lot of people want to go in there and they want to look at it every day and see how it's doing. But the best thing really to do is look at it more as something that you're going to depend on in the future. And not something that's going to necessarily be affected dramatically by the ebbs and flows of the market.
Yeah, that financial noise gets really loud. So that's what Todd's talking about. I think this last step that we have for you guys is probably the most important one, and that's the never stop learning about money. Money is great, and money can be great, but money can also be very evil and cause a lot of issues. So there are so many avenues, especially people our age, people older than us, and exactly people you're young. The more you guys can learn about money now, you're going to be so far ahead of the game down the road. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, you got moneywise.com. You got so many books out there, like the Latte Factor that I was telling you about. You've got YouTube videos. There's so many great podcasts out there. My wife and I are huge podcast fans. So I love to listen even to other financial advisors like Tyde and I like to see what they're doing, see what they're saying. So I think it's so important to never stop learning about money. Set some time aside every day. And I don't care if it's 15 minutes, and just try to catch up on something. It's never too early to start learning about stocks and options. See how those things work. See how the market works. See how risky things are. I mean, start learning now, and then you're going to be, a lot further ahead of the game than a lot of other people would be. So it's really, really cool to always keep learning.
Yeah. And, we usually focus on folks that are probably 30 to 40 years older than the people that are listening to this video.
Yeah.
So, we did a little bit of learning to try to figure out how to apply, our financial knowledge in a way that would be educational for you guys at your age. And YouTube, believe it or not, has boring videos on finance that apply specifically to the teen age, and they're very helpful. There's a lot of folks on there that are great at what they're doing, and it can be a great resource.
Yeah, and another thing, Sandy, just to let you know, I told another buddy of mine that we were doing this show tonight, Ty and I were, and he just sent me an article called Millennials and Money. I'll send it to you. I haven't watched it already yet, so I'll probably do that first, but it's coming from a really good source. So again, just to back up what Todd said, there are some amazing ways to learn about money out there, and how to make it work. Learn about compounding interest. Learn about tax-free investments that we talked about with the Roth IRAs and the life insurance programs. Those are two very important things. So, Sandy, do you think anybody has any questions for us?
Oh, Blake, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I was wondering, you guys talked about like managing your money by like getting your bills in order and then having your savings account. So when I've thought about like when I'm older, when I get a job, then if you save up your money and you live in an apartment and then you have all your bills in order, can you then, if you get more money than you spend on all your uh, expenses, then can you put that into a savings account for so you don't have to pay for mortgage when you buy your first house?
Yes. So I think I understand your question. So your question is, if you're making $500 a week and your bills are $300 a week, we got a $200 a week buffer, right? So if you start putting that back in savings, Blake, that's a brilliant idea, because you put that into some type of account that's going to gain a little interest, right? But you make that commitment to saving that money, then yes, when you go to actually purchase a home, you either have a chunk of money to buy a home with, and or to make that 10, 15, 20% down payment with. And then you can get a much lower interest rate when you finance a home. So yes, to answer your question, use the savings account for a home, use your savings account for a trip, use your savings account to what you want to use it for. Right, Tyde? I mean, you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I like your line of thinking there. It's a great way to look at, that excess money going into an account that can pay off for you down the road. I mean, a lot of people are not thinking that way. A lot of people at your age would probably think about going out and buying the latest, greatest thing, but just taking a little bit of that excess money and putting it into an account that's a savings for you is a great idea.
And Blake, I'll say this too. I mean, what you just said too is having that mind frame is going to keep you out of a lot of debt. Debt will absolutely destroy your retirement plan. It'll destroy your future. So, the quicker you start saving, I just read those numbers to you. I mean, if you can do $5 a day, that will add up after time. So great question, by the way. And yes, you're right on.
Anybody else have a question? No?
Okay.
Something else I learned, you kind of alluded to it, Tyde, with the YouTube. I learned that most banks, or at least Tennessee Valley and Regions for sure, have on their websites videos kind of like what you were referring to,
Right.
that they've made and put out. And I didn't realize that they offered that type of resource. So I think that's really cool too, that you can really find, if you seek it out and you really want to learn, you can really find resources to help you do that.
Yeah, they're out there everywhere. They really are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No questions? No? Quiet.
We covered a lot of stuff there. So, I mean, it's a little overwhelming. We try to make it simple, but I think, Blake and everybody else, kind of gets the idea that the earlier you can start saving, the better. Especially if you get it to a point where you're getting some interest added to it. And like Tyde said right at the very beginning, if you get a job and you get an opportunity to be inside of a 401k, especially if there's matching funds, you want to take advantage of that. If that means you have to change your lifestyle a little bit, you want to get inside that 401k and get that free money from the matching funds, because that's going to pay off for you big time down the road.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, I saw a few of them taking notes. So
yeah, good. Hey, so Sandy, if they come to you with any questions, shoot us an email.
Okay.
Todd and I'll be happy to answer the questions as best we can. This is awesome. I love it, and we'll do all we can to help you guys out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for having us on. We're glad to be able
Absolutely.
to do it.
Thank you so much for your time and for doing this for us. We greatly appreciate it. And if there are no more questions, I'll go ahead and let everyone go, and you can enjoy. It's obviously a beautiful day I see behind Garry.
Yeah.
So go enjoy the rest of it.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
again.
guys.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you.